Yeah, it's time for AM Talk. You're very welcome back. And today we've decided that we want to get a bit of education in on the issue of tariffs, because from the 1st of February it's going to be all change as some new players take over in the management of the ECG, and the expectation is that this will affect how much electricity costs us. Private enterprise seeking profit. So will we be able to pay these new tariffs? Well, indications are that they might not be as high as you think. But why? How are they going to pull it off? We'll talk about that. And why is the minority concerned that actually, no matter what, there might still be an increase in our future, because the debts in the sector are just a little too heavy to be borne without increases. We'll talk about that with our two guests. From the NPP, George Mrikuduka is the Member of Parliament for Takwa Nsiaim. He's the Vice Chair of the Mines and Energy Committee. He's here with John Abdullahi Jinapo, MP for Yape Kusogu. He's a member of the Mines and Energy Committee and a former Deputy Minister of Power. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you both for your time.
Good morning, my brother.
And I guess Happy New Year is in order, right?
Yes,
I haven't seen neither of you this year.
Many happy returns.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You look good this morning.
Oh, so do you. In fact, so do you both. Yes, looking like men who can pay their tariffs. All right. Now, we will spend most of our time talking about that, but I wanted us to get out of the way very quickly what has turned out to be the biggest story in Ghana at the moment. And of course, it is the Men's Gold saga and Anapia Mensah, who now has been located in Dubai. Now, there is a debate raging about how easy or difficult it will be for Ghana to actually secure extradition, since we don't actually have an extradition treaty with the Emirates. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with Mr. Jinapo on this one, because we do have some business with the Emirates, and a lot of it was actually in the sector we are going to be discussing today. I wonder whether you have any insights on how the Emirates will be approaching this issue of extradition.
Well, first of all, I think that he's not been arrested because Ghana is requested of them to arrest him.
That's right.
And so this issue of extradition, as far as I'm concerned, the Emirates has nothing to do with that for now. And like you said, we don't have that kind of treaty with them. And even in extradition, you just don't extradite people. There are ground rules and conditions that meets extradition. Serious high crime, like maybe sedition, maybe you've committed crime against humanity. Those are the issues. I'm not too sure the exact crime this gentleman is supposed to have committed to warrant extradition. All I hear is fraud. I'm not too sure.
And money laundering.
If yes, that is a serious issue. If we can establish that he's really engaged in money laundering, and there are ingredients for establishing that. You just don't say you suspect him of being involved in money laundering. You must prove that to the counterpart country in order for them to be doing that. And so it's a very complicated matter, and for me, it's not as simple as you see it. Moreover, when he's supposed to be facing some charges there, the Emiratis might want to deal with him according to their law in respect of whatever crime they believe is committed there,
right,
before they even think of Ghana. And so it's not going to be that easy. I'm just surprised that for such a person who is on our wanted list, in our circumstance, that is high crime. Because if you look at the amounts involved, that's quite a huge sum of money. I'm surprised that we first of all even took our eye off him and allowed him to leave the shores of this country, when we knew from day one that there was a major issue on hand. Number two, I'm also surprised that we couldn't track him, and that days after he was arrested, the entire state did not even know of it. It is quite obvious that at the time that we were issuing that so-called warrant for his arrest, we weren't even aware that he had been arrested. I think that...
Is that a failing, though?
It clearly indicates that there are some lapses. And I think that state institutions ought to sit up. But the most important thing for me is the fact that customers ought to be able to access their monies. That's the bottom line of all what we're doing. All what we're doing is that customers, Ghanaians, have invested monies in this company. The monies are locked up there. What steps can we take to ensure that those monies are retrieved, or at least a chunk of it? Just bringing him to Ghana does not resolve the issue. I thought that by now, and even at the time SEC was moving in, and if you go to read the Securities Industries Act of 2016, Act 929, it says that SEC has the power to move in unannounced into any premise, onto any business, when they feel that there is that need and there is that risk, and that they can take steps to block and to access funds and assets so that they can retrieve the money. I think they should have done that the very day they moved onto the company.
When was this act passed again?
This act was passed in 2016.
2016.
This is Act 929, the Securities Industries Act. It gives the Securities Exchange Commission a lot of powers.
Yeah.
So much powers that I think that SEC ought to be working well. I've heard a lot of people talk about EUCO, talk about CID. I think that the focus ought to be on SEC.
On SEC. Now, many people agree with you on that. And it's fascinating to me that this law that gave them this power is something that they obviously pursued and had passed, thankfully, by Parliament in 2016. Does it surprise you that following the passage of this bill, they didn't immediately start using it on institutions like Men's Gold, which did exist and was operating at that time?
I do recall that Parliament passed this act in October 2016. Now, when Parliament passes a bill, it ought to go to the presidency for the president to assent. And when the president does so, then it becomes an act. Following that, you ought to establish the institution itself and the structures. And so you wouldn't expect that once it is passed, that very month, you begin to operationalize it effectively. You need to get an office, you need to appoint members, you need to get members onto the board, you ought to go through Council of State. It's a whole process. And so clearly, you couldn't have started effectively implementing this within that short period. Be that as it may, the most important thing is that there's an act. The act gives you powers, provisions in order for you to be effective and efficient.
Right.
I think that SEC ought to be doing that. But finally, you see, we've been talking about Men's Gold. There are a plethora of others lingering around. There are a lot of them, customers of Gold Coast Securities, for more than 1 year, cannot access their capital. At least we claim that Men's Gold was not licensed. Gold Coast Securities is licensed and regulated.
So what
is happening?
What is the action that you're expecting to have seen by now?
SEC ought to move in and assure customers. SEC ought to be communicating. I know of customers who have written to SEC complaining, and it takes more than 3 months before SEC even acknowledges receipt. I think SEC ought to be up and doing, and we ought to focus on SEC.
Okay. Well, Mr. Duka.
My brother, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers, and also a good morning to my constituents. I'm sure they are watching. And Men's Gold, it's been something, an issue that when I'm discussing, I want to discuss it dispassionately, because if you talk of Men's Gold, you cannot move out Takwa because of Goldfields workers, their severance, and how they invested so much. So I've been hearing people talking to me on this Men's Gold issue. But technically, we all know that countries have treaties in terms of how to, punish their citizenry when they find themselves in your abode. Fortunately for us, security issues are not put on platforms like this. So we may speculate that the security agencies did not act well in terms of hearing that Nana Appiah was arrested in Dubai, and therefore because we did not hear. But national security is national security. We must protect them as such. So we can't just, say that we weren't aware of it.
Are you suggesting that our security agencies were actually aware? They knew where he was?
I'm telling you that the processes that he went through before even finding himself in Dubai, he was arrested way back about a month ago. And we are aware of that. And he was arrested on a different matter.
Yes.
Also bordering on gold issues. So, Men's Gold customers had not reported the issue to even the appropriate quarters then. Because
Men's Gold customers had not made any police reports. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because because at a point, I made a pronouncement on one of your sister networks that there is the need for us to have a schedule, payment schedule, to see how best we can pay the customers. And people were on me. Why should you even request for that? And people made placards demonstrating, supporting number one, that he's credible and that we should support Men's Gold to flourish.
Yes, I mean, we saw all that.
Yes.
This issue about no police report is what is of interest to me. That the customers went on the streets, burnt tires and demonstrated and all that. But while they were doing that, not one of them had made a police report.
Not even one had reported then. Not even one.
So this warrant that was issued for his arrest?
It is after they had reported, and you can check. Your platform is big. You can check when that report was made and when the bench warrant was issued.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So you are saying the warrant was issued in response to the first report from a Men's Gold customer?
Yes. And sometimes, making speculations. I agree that we have government institutions that must live up to expectation. If you have a bank that has been an institution that has been established as a bank, calling itself Men's Bank with K, then moving up from that to a Men's Bank with C, then coming up again, and you have these institutions all over lingering around without cautioning and going in there in 2013, 2014, leaving the same institution to grow and have feeders to come and now harass people. Then we turn back to say, wow, why didn't you go in there? So during your tenure, and sometimes I just don't want to bring in politics to this.
I think we shouldn't, because these are state institutions.
Yes.
So they ought to operate
if you are sticking to
regardless of who is in government.
Yes, if you are sticking to the blame game as to which institution did not act well, then we must also be cautious of how we bring in our political coloration, because after all, if SEC must act, they must act. The moment a law is enacted, it must flow, whether it was in a month or two or something. Once it has been actionable, then something must be done. We had all the way, we should take what my brother outlined, that it was passed around October, granted. Had November, December, what did we do with it? People are saying we've passed that of Martin Amidu's outfit, and he's not acting. So it tells you that indeed there are pillars that must be put in place before an actionable consequences can be realized. So I would say that yes, some security institutions, they've delegated some guys to go to Dubai to ensure how best they can collaborate on this. Now,
you think it'll be easy?
It wouldn't. It wouldn't internationally, because we have our own, and they are not part of Commonwealth, where he can have easy treaties and so on.
So on the off chance that they don't secure him, or the Emirates don't agree to release him, what's our next move?
Yes, I'm happy just to hear this morning that some of his accounts have been, in a way, put on cover.
Really? Well, forgive me, why does that make you happy? I mean, do you think there's any money in his accounts still?
Let's wait and see. Maybe there are, I know some information that may not be prudent for me as of now to put it out there.
Okay.
But I know that going forward, yesterday I was doing some checks and I realized that most of the premises that they used were on lease.
Yes, we're aware of this.
And that the account, they were also transacting in and out of that some accounts that have some few. And I believe customers, we can, as a government, take it from there. So we're showing concern as to how...
Are you indicating that there is some value to the freezing of these accounts? That
obviously.
There's some money there?
Obviously. We having some accounts that I'm hearing are even more than what has been disclosed. I mean, the number of accounts. People are saying 4 or 5 of them, but I have heard about, 9 of them, different accounts, which are proving to be, worthy of that action. So let us wait and see. Once the matter is in court, as he said, yes, the concern, the plight of the customers is really, really, really important, and we must reassure them that it is not over.
So were you alarmed when the finance minister called them greedy?
That statement, I have read through, I've listened, and did he emphatically say they are greedy?
What's your understanding of what he said?
He was like cautioning that before you invest into any financial institution, you need to do your background check as to whether they are credible enough for you to put in your money there. So that is what he was conscientizing the people.
So where did the concept of greed come in?
The greed, when you rush in doing something with anticipation of getting more than expectation, you sort of run around greed.
So he called them greedy.
But he didn't say emphatically that they were greedy, or they were greedy. I believe he said that let us be cautious as to the steps that we take in investing into financial institutions. So I wouldn't go the tangent of calling them,
we'll get the quote up and read it so that our audience can decide for themselves what exactly the finance minister was saying. But are we okay to move on?
Finally, I know some institutions, like the churches that we have, may also come up to support in terms of providing psychologists to their membership, because some of these customers really need some support in terms of advice as to how they should conduct themselves. Because yesterday I had a call from my constituency, and one was in very a bad situation, and I had to personally place a call to talk to him, and I believe such a person will need a psychological interventions.
Just quickly, first of all, I think that it's obvious that the finance minister didn't speak well. With an attempt to placate it and try to put it in a different context, I think he didn't speak well. And I think as finance minister, he ought to know when to say certain things and how to go about it. That's number one. Number two is that, look, he says that the accounts have been frozen. My brother, SEC suspended activities of Men's Gold on the 12th of September. September, October, November, December, January.
Forgive me, a quick correction. Actually, before SEC suspended the activity, Iyoko placed him on bail in August. So that's even before.
No problem. I'm even looking at the Securities and Exchange Act, where you suspended the activities. The very day you suspended their activities, you needed to have blocked their accounts.
Interesting.
I do recall staff of Men's Gold coming out to say that, look, their bosses are converting assets and moving the monies out. It's public knowledge. They complained.
When was that? Officially?
About 2 months ago, yes. Officially, it was published. Nothing was done. Number two, if you knew, the security people knew that the Emirati authorities had arrested the man, why are they informing other countries to help him, to help Ghana arrest the man? This is simple logic.
Did they actually know?
You knew that the man has been arrested in Dubai, and yet you are issuing a statement to over 190 countries telling them that, look, help us to arrest the man.
Can you
You
show
see,
me any
what
statement
we
with
are
that?
doing
Can
is
you show me any
simply...
statement that came out of the security agencies?
Yes,
by
it was
telling
public
other
knowledge.
countries to support them in arresting number one?
Well, an
the-
Interpol
yes.
notice was issued, so that means all the
Don't inform me all Interpol
194
nations. I don't get
we
it.
have formalities in this.
Right.
You
We
understand?
have formalities in this, and obviously you come up
The
to say
truth
that,
is that
yes,
they
you
didn't
need
know.
support. Maybe you could have even sought asylum somewhere.
You
that
see,
yes, release me to go somewhere.
brother.
So once you inform them, then you cannot take any step to go out of. So I believe I'll be given a chance
I'm sure
to
viewers
back
will make their own judgment. There's no need debating this matter. The truth is that, but for the demonstration at Kumasi, would have been where we were. Let's be honest sometimes with ourselves, and let's face facts, and let's learn to correct some of these issues that come up. Governance is a continuum. Let's even assume that, look, NDC was supposed to do ABC, they didn't do it. And so what? And so what? We have an issue on hand. Let's deal with the issue. Let's learn from our mistakes and correct those mistakes. It's not a matter of blame game. I decided not to politicize it. I decided to focus on SEC, because SEC is an institution established by law, paid by me, the taxpayer. And so if SEC is not working, let us push them to work. If they need more resources, let us do that. That's the only way we'll make progress as a nation.
Okay, I want to read the specific quote of the finance minister just to clarify this matter. We won't comment on it. We'll leave the audience to decide what the finance minister is communicating. But of course, I'll give you a chance to respond to Mr. Jinapor after that. So this is what the finance minister said, and I quote, "As I look at the Ministry of Finance and I see some people who are at the Ministry of Finance who have invested there. I look at the Bank of Ghana and I see some people who have invested there. And of course, the military, etc., who have invested there. As we try to clean up the financial services center, I know the SEC has come down hard, strong, and justifiably on men's gold. But the issue with a company of men's gold, it's become an issue of greed as a people and our own behavior when we are so clear, as educated as we might be, that when we went there, there was no license."
Oh, you were.
My brother, okay, you said we shouldn't comment on that, but the comment there is issue. You had a word issue.
Yes, an issue of greed.
Issue, so he was educating as to how you invest, in terms of if you invest otherwise, then the consequences. But you know,
that's your interpretation.
Let me just buttress one or two points that he made. It was interesting that my brother was mentioning October, November, December month. But we having a situation where men's gold, you know, like started like Men's Bank with KC, and what did you do? So when we talking of this, and you saying that
wait, forgive me, you're pointing out the failings of these institutions earlier as the reason why they failed again this year.
Yeah, you see, he mentioned that once it has happened, we need to fight against it, no matter when it started. But it's important because a cub is not the same as a lion. Meanwhile, a cub is a baby lion. And taking care of a cub, you can even rear a cub in your household, but you cannot rear a lion in your household. But a cub will grow to become a lion. When Men's Gold started as Men's Bank, we could have curtailed it there. It grew wings, it got to Men's Gold, and you're telling us that it is easy to fight it now. We could have fought it earlier when it started as a men's bank. That is what I'm saying.
So now
the analogy that I'm.
You can't fight
so
it.
now you can't fight it. That's what you're saying.
We came.
It's a lion.
No, we came to meet it as it is. We uncovered the black veil, told Ghanaians that no, what you saw to be gold is not as you saw it. So we took process in bringing out the rot.
You're taking credit for informing the public that there's a problem.
Why not?
Men's Gold.
Why not?
That is those warnings started back in 2015.
So what did they do then? If the warnings, it even buttresses my point. If the warnings started in 2015 and he even analyzing and bringing out maths, what did you do then?
Don't you see it
so
as
it shouldn't be
a
sort
failure
of
of the institution
blame games? Yes,
rather than
if it is institutions, then we must gear our conversations towards that, but not just to say blame government, quoting people.
Blame government.
Oh yeah, so many platforms, so many platforms. That is how I understood you. You have your own way of understanding the issues.
To close the business, and I'm saying the day you moved in to close the business, I was expecting that you would have blocked their accounts and have a foothold on the accounts. And you want to debate this and bring 2015 men's bank.
I do have one question for you, Mr. Jinapo, and it is to the issue of whether or not action during your tenure could have prevented this. I'm thinking of the role of the Ghana Revenue Authority here. When you go to other jurisdictions, the minute a person or an organization starts spending money and doing things that appear out of the norm, GRA or whatever their equivalent will be in that jurisdiction would move in with an audit just to understand what kind of business you are doing, which warrants you importing 3 Rolls Royces or 12 4x4s, when last year you didn't appear to have that sort of resources.
No. The Ghana Revenue Authority, the GRA, is a taxman.
Yes.
The taxman's duty is to assess you and ensure that you pay the commensurate amount in terms of taxes.
That's not different from what I'm saying.
No, you are talking of suspicion and all that. There are other agencies where there's proper collaboration, and that's why I'm now agreeing with you. GRA would have then notified the other agencies that, look, this person is paying this amount, this person is buying that property. Then those other agencies like UCO and the others will then zoom in to determine whether the money you are making is legitimate, is clean money or not.
Isn't that when they suspect criminal activity?
Not necessarily. You are mentioning GRA.
I'm talking about
and
audits.
I'm saying GRA would not move in to exactly determine the genuineness of your income or money. What they'll be interested in is that these are your assets, this is what you are worth, so you must pay this X amount in terms of tax.
Right.
GRA would then alert other state institutions whose responsibility will be to move in to determine the genuineness of your source of income, in order to determine that it's not dirty money, it's not money laundering and all that. That is one. Number 2, when this issue of men's bank started, Bank of Ghana moved in and stopped them. That is why they changed the name from the K to a C. Bank of Ghana again moved in and said that even with the C, once it sounds like bank, you cannot continue. They stopped them. And then they moved to men's gold, and then went to Minerals Commission to secure license to trade in gold.
Right. That was in 2017.
That is it. So this issue of you didn't do anything, you should have moved in, that is in 2017. Then they decided to work with brew marketing. So look, this blame game and attempts to go back to the past will not help. We have an issue on hand. There are state institutions tasked to perform their jobs. Let's put them on their toes. Let's ensure that they do what is proper and stop this politicization. It's not going to help in any way, shape or form. Customers want their money. Let us ensure that we deal with this issue head on, devoid of this unnecessary, you did this for years. All I'm saying is that when SEC moved in to stop the work in September, the law gave SEC the power to have written to Bank of Ghana, and it's in the act, I can quote it, we don't have time, for Bank of Ghana to provide them and any other bank with the amounts in those accounts, and they could have moved in to block that. I'm saying that 4 months down the lane, it is obvious that they would have done a lot of things. We should learn from this and avoid such scenarios. I don't see the debate.
Well, Mr. Duka believes that the freezing of the accounts actually will yield some value, and he appears to know something that we don't. I certainly hope you're right, because there are lots of
the question we need to also ask ourselves, that when Men's Gold was Men's Bank
Forgive me.
What were they dealing in? Were they, serving as bank? They weren't. They were still dealing in gold. And you're telling me today that it was a different thing. It was the same entity. When did they stop? Were they able to stop them? And check it. Whether Bank of Ghana, as you claiming, were able to stop them.
Yes.
That is not correct.
Then why did
that
they
is
change?
not correct.
Well, Bank of Ghana got them to change their name from Bank.
Yeah, the name only changed, but their operations were
because
on.
You don't qualify.
They were on.
They said you cannot call yourself a bank, so they changed their name.
They operated.
I think we should.
So let's establish the fact that they did not change their operations.
Okay, tariffs. I'm particularly glad I have the two of you on this matter. Okay, first of all, the minority is worried that no matter how you turn this thing, we're going to have to increase tariffs. And their argument, well, I don't know what's wrong with their argument. If really there's an over 2 billion debt just sitting there, how are new managers going to come along and then from February reduce tariffs, still these bills will get paid and they will also be able to operate and make a profit?
Well, my brother, you said you don't see anything wrong with the speculations.
Well, if there is something wrong, I'm hoping you will point it out.
There are so many things that I see wrong with the statement that they are throwing out there. Yeah. That Section 16 of the PURC Act, I believe it's Act 538, gives PURC the mandate, the sole mandate, to come and in a way announce tariffs. That is the mandate given to PURC. What is important for us to know is, yes, we have a tariff regime, because the expectation is, what are you going to do? And their confusion is their benchmarks, what they have in mind, that what are we going to do as a state? They would have done what they are expecting, but we are not using their benchmarks in governing this sector. They may have their own scenarios, their own thinking, and that is why if you go through years back, you realize that the trend has been increment. Yeah. It was only in 2018 that we came up with a weighted average of about 25% reduction, and we haven't seen this for decades. So they will be surprised if the price or the tariff is maintained, and I believe I wouldn't blame them. They have also been running around to say that yes, there's debt there. ECG made profit in 2016. But my brother, anytime there is a tariff upward adjustment, there is a profit made. Anytime. And that has been the trend that you make. And if you remember, in 2015, 15th October, the NDC were not pathetic to Ghanaians and increased or adjusted our tariff regime to 89%. And even in 2013 as well, it was 89%. The NDC. So they have been running around expecting that if they adjusted to 89%, then obviously NPP, being sort of benevolent, they will do it 60%. But we are not. We take the plight of the final consumer into consideration, because all these discussions border on the final consumer. What are you doing to support the final consumer? Because the back rests at the doorstep of the final consumer. My brother, we have a concessionaire who is coming on board, and it's not 100% takeover. Right. ECG is handing over the assets to the concessionaire and obviously the workers because of local content. Yeah. The PDS is to take care of the revenue collection, the metering aspect of the sector and so on to ensure efficiency.
Right.
That is the basic principle that we establish in this. So it is not a matter. They have made their proposals. Grico, Netco, all the other utility institutions, they've brought up their suggestions as to what they will expect. Some have made 90%, some have made about 30% proposal. But discussions are ongoing. I told my brother earlier on before we came on the set that we're having a meeting tomorrow with PURC, and that is where we can even, as it were, go through these suggestions and see how best. But I'm assuring Ghanaians that we take their plight into consideration. We are not just going to increase tariffs for just increasing it. If there is going to be an increase at all, it will not exceed a single digit.
Right.
It will not exceed a single digit.
Okay.
And that will not be, significant enough to affect them. And for more than 2 decades, 2018 was the first time that reduction of that sort was made.
Right.
And obviously, you have a part of debts. And I will, maybe in due course, give you the chronological part of where increments were made, profits made, loss, and it follows like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they ran around to say, oh, 2016 you made profit. What about 2015? What about 2014? What happened?
Now let me ask you this: you mentioned the reduction in 2018. The president announced it. In fact, it was even announced in the is it State of the Nation, or is it what?
He didn't announce it.
Okay.
He said that you, as a manager of the state, you ensure that he coordinates with the needed agencies to ensure a reduction.
I think his words
so the basic
were
is
perhaps not
no,
exactly
because
yours,
of the act. So
yes.
we need to be careful as to.
But that's the thing, because throughout your analysis, and I learned a lot from what you were saying, you were suggesting that, well, the NDC expects the MPP to increase it by this much. And is it the MPP that's increasing it? You've already quoted an act. Is PURC not actually as independent as the law mandates them to be? Are they being dictated to by your party?
My brother, when you tell them not to do politics with this energy sector, they wouldn't listen. The NDC wouldn't listen because, and we shouldn't pretend. They've issued statement out, the minority. Who is the minority?
Right. But you've responded in kind. You haven't said, oh, please don't say this because PURC does it on their own. We have no say in what they do. You have actually been assuring the public that, yes, the NPP will actually not increase tariffs, to cripple you or to. But is it up to you?
Because of precedence, because of what we saw in 2018. If I'm building my point, because as a committee we yet meet PURC, and from all indications, from documents around, from what you've seen before, I don't think the 60% that they've mentioned is reasonable. I don't think, and I was surprised they were able and bold to go around with this 60% suggestion, and that's why I'm reassuring Ghanaians that yes, we may have challenges here and there in terms of gas, in terms of heavy fuel to support this power generators. I mean the IPPs and other and.
So you are reassuring Ghanaians on behalf of PURC?
On behalf of government. You see, is something that we need not to run away from. I'm here representing the interests of government, and he's here to represent the minority, and that is the reality.
So in spite of the law, the reality is that you guys will decide.
So why are we then discussing the 60% that they threw out there? Why are we discussing? If
you are both players in the energy sector. I'm hoping to learn. Our audience is hoping to learn from you how these things work.
I am giving.
But what they are getting is an assurance that it won't be increased to that level.
Because the sector is being managed by this government.
Right.
So
the PURC is being managed.
I mean, the energy sector.
Yes, PURC is part of that. They are the regulator.
It's an independent organization. They also take directives as to the proposals that these utility companies make to them. They analyze them, come up with figures as to, and interestingly, people are also talking of this automatic adjustment formula. That why are we not triggering it? This automatic adjustment formula was triggered in 2002, 2003, thereabout, where the world price surged. But if you look through 2005, 2006, it was, you know, put somewhere. It was not triggered because it's to mitigate any cost. It's to also show the concerns and address concerns of the final consumer. So where you bring in the automatic adjustment, do you also take into consideration the concerns of the final consumer? Right. So where you need to come in with the automatic adjustment, say, okay, yes, we are fine, we can now trigger it. So
government is going to come in on these tariffs.
Obviously, if I'm a government and you're a government and if you believe that there's the need and ways, other ways of fighting or, you know, mitigating your debts,
you set aside the law.
You don't, not aside the law. The automatic adjustment formula is part of systems.
Oh, I was actually still referring to PURC, but I get your point. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So it's part of the systems to address this. So it's not the law.
Right.
So let's wait and see what we come up with. It is not something that we're going to have, 60% no. That one is emphatic no.
All right. Mr. Jinapo, I listened to Mr. Mutawakilu when he talked about the debt. And it alarmed me. I'm sure everybody, we are aware that there's debt, but as it grows, I guess, we don't realize the rate at which it is growing. 2 billion is a scary number. But these debts didn't spring up overnight. Over a very long period of time, this thing has gone on.
No. First of all, let me deal with some quick factual inaccuracies. So we can have our very varied opinions in respect of how things are done, but as for facts, you can't have different sets of facts. Let me just quote what the president said. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has announced that as from January this year, non-residential users of electricity in the country would enjoy an average of 14% reduction in electricity tariff.
And which side are you reading from? Is it not Ghana Web?
Oh, it's my joy, it's everywhere.
It's Ghana Web. Look, this is Ghana Web. And it said has announced. So Ghana Web, you said you are quoting.
You have a quote. Yes, a quote from the president is better.
Continued, and this is quote.
Okay. So the first one wasn't a quote.
From January this year, the non-residential tariff rate, which is the rate which includes all of you here, is being reduced by an average of 14%. For barbers, it is being reduced by 18%. For hairdressers and beauticians, 15.7%. And for tailors, 9.8%. This is the president. It turned out to be false. This is the president of the Republic of Ghana.
My brother, contextually, quoting from what you just took an aspect of it.
I'll give you an opportunity. But Mr. Jinapo, if
this is what the president of the Republic of Ghana said when he met the workers. If you remember, it became a big debate. So then too, he says that in 2015 there was 87% increment and all that. This is Public Utilities Regulatory Commission.
I said in 2013.
You mentioned 2015.
That was 59%.
Please, can I make my point? You made your point, and I'm trying to.
I said 2013. You were quoting me. That is why I came in. Sorry about that.
No problem. Sorry about that. Thank you about this. Let's make progress. Now, you mentioned the figures, and you said it bailed on over. No. We are talking of only 2018.
The 2 billion.
More than 2 billion, almost 2.5 billion.
Almost. Do you have the figures?
The figures are here. Look, as for me, these things, I deal with the facts. I don't speculate. And I can pull what ECG presented to myself and you when we met them at
But have you forgotten that that statement, they withdrew it and said they were going to come up with the
Because
we asked for further and better particulars.
Please. This is not a matter of
Right.
I'll just quote the figure.
So we will take that detail once you find it.
But let me move on.
If we can
He
put
was
it
there.
up.
ECG indicated that in 2016 they made a profit of 725 million cedis.
Right.
This is Performance Vital Statistics, page 12. 2017, they made a loss of 521 million. 2018, half year, they had made a loss of 1,077 million and projected that by the end of the year, they will be making a loss or a deficit or a liability of 2.3 billion. If you add that of 2017, it means that for that 2-year period, you are incurring a debt of close to 3 billion. Within 2 years. 2 years. From a profit of 725 million in 2016. Audited account. Audited. 725 million. We are making a loss just within 2 years of 3 billion.
Now, this profit that you made in 2016, so this means you had paid off all the debts in the energy sector.
In accounting, you don't do that.
Uh-huh.
What we did was that we consolidated all the debts of about 9 billion. We said, take it off their books. Institute what you call energy sector levy. It gives you about 3.5 billion every year. Use that money to amortize and pay off the about 9 billion so that their financials and their balance sheet is clean.
It's clean.
Then give them realistic tariffs so that going forward they wouldn't accumulate that debt again. So one, we had a deficit in terms of generation. So we brought in AXA, we brought in CAPA, we brought in Ameri, you brought in KTPP, all those ones. So you are dealing with the generation issue. You had an issue with fuel. So we decided to do Atuabo, we brought on ENI, those Sankofa, Tain fields and all that. Then that takes care of the fuel. When you do that, you immediately save about $500 million every year. Because unlike crude oil, gas is reliable, it is cheaper, and it is local. Then the financial, because you're dealing with a three-pronged approach, generation and transmission, you deal with the debt overhang, and then you deal with the fuel. So this is what we did. So in 2016, ECG made a profit of almost 1 billion. So what went wrong? That today we are making 3 billion and it's compounding. In 2017,
He's asked the question.
all the gas we bought from Ghana Gas, we did not pay 1 peso. 2017, we did not pay 1 peso. Now let's come to the present situation of the concession. The concession was signed in August 2014 and witnessed by John Kerry and John Mahama. I think Setekwe signed on our behalf. We're supposed to be investing about $469 million in that sector alone. So we're going to build a major bulk supply point here in Accra, new one, to boost the system. Then the concessionaire, we had two options, either privatization, that's selling of, or concessionaire. We opted for a concession. We'll come in and also invest money, improve the system, and reduce the losses from that 23% to a single digit. So what it means is that for every power we sell, if you generate 100, about 25 is lost. So you are actually accounting for 75. So if you have a company that can reduce that, it then means that you are getting more revenues. So there will be no need for tariff increment. I'm here to talk to Moto Akilo. I just arrived from the constituency. I want to run some figures with him. I hold the view that there should be no increment. At all. Why should there be an increment? What will be the justification for an increment? And I think that Ghanaians should reject any increment as far as the electricity sector is concerned. And I listened to the chairman of PLC. He said that there's no justification. And that what the utilities have presented is exactly what they presented last year. The problem has to do with efficiency and government agencies honoring their part of the bargain. Government agencies are not paying. That is why you are seeing these huge debts. If government agencies were paying, you wouldn't see these huge debts that we are incurring. So under no circumstance should we have even a peso of power increment, because fuel is the major component. Fuel constitutes about 40% of the tariff structure. The Minister of Finance has come to Parliament to ask that we should exempt these utilities from paying for the gas they are buying this year, to the tune of 181 million. It's in the budget, and I can quote it for you. So if we have granted you that waiver to say that, look, for 2019, the gas you are procuring, 181 million, don't pay for it, why should you increase tariffs?
Well, it would appear that Mr. Jinapor is agreeing, or perhaps saying something that is aligned with the assurances that you have been seeking to give to the people of Ghana. So if he is right in terms of the figures, then there actually isn't a reason why the tariff should go up, right?
My brother, some of the statements are laughable, because if you take 2017, we made some payment to that effect in 2008, last quarter of 2018. So it is not correct that we did not pay for
last quarter of 2018.
Yes.
I'm saying for 2017.
Oh.
Did you hear me?
The impression,
perhaps you're saying that
the impression is that we had it for free. And
Why
that
was
is
for free?
That is why I'm establishing, because he said we did not pay anything.
So you
I
paid the
said
2017 bill
we didn't
in
pay.
the last
So
quarter of 2018.
I'm saying that we have made payment of the gas that we consumed. So we shouldn't
For
create
2017.
Obviously. So we shouldn't create
Okay.
an impression that we had it for free, and therefore that should warrant for, reduction in tariffs. My brother, let me run
missing
through.
them.
No,
Mr.
let me
Miss
go
them.
ahead.
The viewers are there
I'll take
to
note
do
of
the
that.
analysis.
Yes,
My
I
brother.
hope we'll have some time.
Take in 2008, ECG made a profit of 25 million. In 2009, they made a loss. You know why? Because there was a tariff adjustment in 2007, and that called for the profit in 2008. They immediately made loss the ensuing year. If you come to 2010, because there was an adjustment, also in 2009, they made a profit of 1.1 million. If you come to 2011, they made a whooping loss of 24 million because there wasn't any adjustment in that year. Then 2013, the same people, and my brother was the minister in that sector of power.
Deputy Minister.
You calling him deputy minister?
That was his designation.
When Dr. Kobina Donko resigned, did we have a replacement in that sector?
When did that happen? You are talking
You don't know
about
there was a replacement.
Who was it?
Tepe was appointed as the acting minister.
Yeah.
Haven't you seen that before under President Kufuor and the other people?
So granted, you grant that was, but virtually me, I know that he was the minister, de facto minister.
This is a serious
So
program. My brother.
He was the deputy minister.
Granted,
This
a
is
deputy
multimedia.
minister.
We
No,
can go and say
you
this
deputy minister.
on other channels.
He was the deputy minister. That has been established.
Granted. And
Go ahead, Mr.
you
Biko.
had the impudence to increase tariffs then for up to 89%.
Why do you call it impudence?
It is impudence because you did not take the concerns of the final consumer into consideration then. We told you that we were not being able to pay. Don't go that high. You did not listen to us. That is why I call it impudence. Because if you had our plight, as part of your decision making, you wouldn't have increased it to that tune. Tariffs then were competing with rent. Then we had the opportunity, Ghanaians say, go away. We come, and instead of increasing as the trend has been, we reduce it. And you're telling Ghanaians that
Again, you did this, not PURC. I need to get that thing clear.
But what did he say? When he was, why didn't you ask him? But he
him
said
what?
he was referring to his government when he was making those analyses that we did that. We did that.
If he had said anything about it, I would have pointed it out.
So
Viewers are listening to you.
PURC
Right.
Granted, PRC is not something that we need to debate on.
Okay.
After that, so it's a platform that you build. You increase, that is the formula they know, increase. And it didn't stop in 2013. And in 2000, because they made that in 2013, they couldn't even manage the sector well. Because the trend has been, you increase tariffs, you make profit. But in 2014 only, they made loss. And they changed the trend. Then they came back to increase the tariff.
2014 financial statement. There's no loss.
There is
The profit is 85.
Can you allow me to? You see, can you allow me to make my point? You have your.
Mr. Jedapo, I will give you the opportunity to counter anything. I'll give you the opportunity to counter anything.
You are not concocting.
Mr.
You are
correct.
My brother, you read it to the viewers. 2014.
Please, I haven't verified.
85.5.
It is operating profit or loss.
Let me make this clear to our audience. I have not independently verified any of the figures that our guests are sharing. I have not independently verified any of these figures.
No.
So we will listen to their arguments and try and understand the points they are making, but we have not independently verified their figures, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So, and this is a very big platform. You can check because our credibility is at stake. And in 2015, same PRC in 2015 came to announce an adjustment, upward adjustment of 59.1%. So if we had reduced it then with prudent management, we would have continued from there. Then you, because of the adjustment, you make a profit of 276. The figure is 276. You can cross-check that one too and come up here tomorrow to either deny or put it aside. So obviously, once there has been a reduction, there will be some sort of debt somewhere that we will need to mitigate. I agree. But is increment the solution? That is a question that, so now I'm at the level of the final consumer. We need to cast our net wide as to other avenues that we can, bring in these inflows to support what.
So this is your explanation of the debt, the 2 billion.
That is also false. The figure, I don't agree to the figure that he is.
What is the debt? What's
the total figure? I'm yet to confirm it because yesterday I had two figures,
right,
and they were not up to 2 billion. They were not up to 2
but
billion.
You haven't confirmed
I just want
figures.
to confirm because of the.
Then will you hold your disagreement until you have confirmed?
So you granted whatever.
All right.
Because my argument is not even geared towards how much we owe.
Okay.
It's how we can best manage the sector.
Right.
And it is not based on just increment. I'm saying that we may have other avenues like revenue collection as to how best we can collect, how best we can collect our revenues, how best we can also see to our metering system.
What's the strategy there? How are you going to do
the strategy is what this partnership is bringing on. And he alluded to the fact that during their tenure, they had same arrangement. Theirs was different because we saw the workers of ECG on the street, telling Ghanaians that they were selling the ECG out. We are not selling it out. So ECG is selling bulk power to the concessionaire. The concessionaire will finally distribute to the final consumer. And this time around, there's a partnership, not 100% sellout. And the aspect of this is also to lease out the assets of ECG to the concessionaire and also the workers. So they will be under the care of the concessionaire. What they would also further do is to see to proper.
When you say under the care, will they be employees of the concessionaire?
Yes, obviously.
Okay.
Obviously. And they will sort of see to better metering because personally, I don't see why I should struggle to get a meter. Because the meter is the only tool that you use to, bill me. So, and the billing is to inure to the benefit of the company. So why should I, as a final consumer, struggle to get a meter? It's something that I cannot comprehend.
Right.
And that is also an aspect that we'll see that will push for the proper thing to be done. Apart from that, illegal connections. How do we also lessen that aspect? Because these illegal connections also cost us so much. So how do we also see, do we have the technology, do we have the expertise to look at that area? That is an area we also look at.
Okay.
Then bringing all these concerns on board, we see how we can also do efficiency, like moving car power to the Western Enclave, to also in a way also mitigate costs. The gas, Sankofa, Wapi, and so on. Jubilee obviously is cheaper than that of the Wapi and Sankofa. Right. How do we also ensure that we get more from Jubilee inflows to also, in a way, flash out some of the high costs? And these are ways of addressing the challenges there. Okay. So the trend shouldn't be increment, and I know that is the word they understand. So they obviously will throw it out there. Don't expect this. When they bring any increment, resist. Master, we're not bringing any increment that may affect the future of our consumers. And if you hear the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, talk on behalf of, you see that yes, you've indeed elected a president, because the concern is don't go out there to just increase, because we need to, we are here to,
that's what the president is telling PURC.
I wouldn't say that is but that is the concern of the president, not to be going out there to increase, to sort of warrant pressure on the final consumer. He is seeking to address the concerns of final consumers. So he is much concerned, and I don't think as a president of the republic, he will just sit down for increment spree to be poured on us.
Now, Mr. Jinapor, one thing that President has proved time and time again is that if he cares enough about something, he will find the money from wherever to pay for it. We saw him do that when he insisted on starting free SHS in his first year. For the longest time, they didn't even seem to know where they would get the money, but they did. They found the money. So if
he did the same for one village, one that he failed.
Well,
he did the same for one district, one factory. He failed.
Well,
he did the same for several other. The president even gave timelines that by the end of the year, 59 factories would have been built. He failed. So as for that one,
okay.
Well, let me deal with this.
Right. Bringing this.
We have the 2014 annual report, financial statements for the ECG.
It is clear. Yeah. Look, we don't come here to present.
So what is there? Showing the logo and 2014 without any figures and saying
we will independently verify the figures. So, Mr. Jinapor, thank you. I mean, for that.
This is what statement of comprehensive income for the year ended 31st December.
You see, we will still have to verify them.
So my point is that look, you can't come here and present concocted, adulterated figures to the people of Ghana without any evidence.
But I've told him, but you can't say this. You can't say this. My brother, you can't say this.
I am giving you.
You can't say this.
Evidence.
You have the concrete.
Okay, we have just a couple of minutes
and tell the Ghanaians. Tell Ghanaians about this. You can't just say I've made concocted.
I said that your
without also verifying.
They made a loss in 2014.
I want us to settle the figures issue with the statement that we will verify them.
Absolutely.
And leave that.
And do you promise that you put this up for consumers?
Of course. It is for their benefit that we will verify them.
Go through it. Yes, go through it and present to Ghanaians.
Right.
I've given you a trend.
You had a point. I made my point. You made your point. So if you allow me, so that viewers.
We have 2 minutes left. I'll give one each to the two of you.
But didn't you have your 10? You had your 10. I had my 10.
Please. You see what I am.
I'm your vice chair.
What I am looking forward. What I am looking forward is that we should have a power sector that is efficient, that is resilient, but that does not accumulate debt. Because every time you've given me a reduction, and you're accumulating the debt, and then you come back to me again and say there's a debt, so I'm instituting a levy on petroleum products. Come and pay. You haven't done me any good. So this issue of you don't want us to pay lower tariff is good. Who doesn't want lower tariffs? But we want a lower tariff that will not lead to 3 billion debt. And I think all of us ought to be concerned about this. Because at the end of the day, it is you and I who will pay this money, this concession. There's a clause there that says that, look, they will take over on a clean bill of health. All the outstanding liabilities will ring fence it and allow ECG, the mother company, which will be at the apex, to hold the debts. He says that they were going to sell it, they've changed it. Where from this? We opted for the concession way back in 2015. September 2016, the full effect of the compact kicked in, and we opted for the concession. That hasn't changed. And yet the vice chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee sits live on TV and says that we're going to sell it. They came and changed it.
Right. Our time is actually up.
Yes.
30 seconds.
The inconsistencies is too much. He sits here to say that Ghanaians should resist any upward adjustment. Then you say we wouldn't want a situation where padding of debts will be about 3 billion. So what is his take? Is he calling for an upward adjustment?
No, I'm saying efficiency.
You have only 30 minutes, please. There is a discovery of oil of about 530 million barrels, and that is made by Aker. And I say that is made by Aker. We'll discuss it. That is prudent way of managing the oil sector. We are in control.
Where from this?
My
brother, where from this?
Every Ghanaian must be.
I'm sure he's connecting it. I'm sure he's connecting it. Please, our time is up.
It's about power. It's about crude. It's about gas. And I'm talking of discoveries
of what?
That will support the sector. So if you don't understand, let the viewers make the
Aker has discovered crude following the ruling of Itlos.
Well, look,
it was suspended because
why
there was a problem.
When I was it was discovered by who? You know,
so what is the link? What is the link?
So there is a discovery of 510 million barrels.
How does that link into
the power? Not the energy, power.
Oil, crude oil.
Yes.
How does it link to the power sector? So, not gas, crude oil.
Please allow him to make the connection. Mr. Duka, please, our time is up. Please allow Mr. Duka to make the connection.
There is a future for us, and a positive future. We also managing the power sector very efficiently. Ghanaians shouldn't expect anything. If there is going to be an increment,
it shouldn't even be an increment.
It's not going to be more than a single digit. Right. And we'll always.
That's a very definitive prediction there.
And quote me anywhere.
All right. We will end on that positive note.
Aker has discovered oil. So there will be 9%.
I want to thank Mr. John Jinapo and Mr. Duka for joining us. But Mr. George Meku Duka and Mr. John Jinapo. Now, loud explosions were heard on Wednesday dawn at the armory of the Michel Camp Barracks, which is the base of the 1st Infantry Battalion of the Ghana Armed Forces. Now, witnesses say they heard a loud noise shortly after huge flames engulfed the armory at the military base in Tema. Now, of course, the base ammunition depot, which is known as the BAD, holds a large consignment of explosives. MFI Tiamwa Eli joins us now from one of the houses where a supposed missile landed following the explosion. Let's join MFR now. Right, we're going to connect to MFR in just a moment. Our line just got cut off there, but we're going to take a quick break to solve that. When we come back, we're live from Michel Camp. Stay with us.